My other question to you, I mean, I've got a couple here. And I kind of hinted at my feelings about this, but in your opinion, is this lack of changing, are we setting MLS back?
I feel like the way I was trying to think about this earlier today, and maybe I'm not looking at this right, but I feel like the way I look at it is it's like imagine you're like in the airport. You're trying to get to your gate on time for your flight or something, Let's just say your airport gate is 2027, right? That's what MLS is always talking about. And those little conveyor belt things that make you walk a little bit faster in the airport and whatnot. That's what I would consider to be like the financial changes. So you're still going to be able to get to your gate to get to 2027 without having to add in these financial incentives. So, no, to answer your question, I don't think it sets them backwards. However, I think it could have helped get you to that point faster. And I understand that there's some risks with that, but I feel like with Messi coming in, that is a serious bump and an opportunity, especially with stuff leading up, to take a little bit more risk because we can talk about these changes that are going to come in 2027, but this whole massive stretch of eyes that are going to be on the US and potentially eyes that kind of sweep over into MLS is going to be done by then. Eyes will be gone. It doesn't mean that like someone who's watching the World Cup in the US is now going to stick around and watch MLS all of a sudden in 2027. I think you got to capitalize on it now with stuff like Messi and Copa America coming in here to get the eyes, I would say, ahead of that. Get people familiar with the league and the players playing here before those things happen. And you might be able to keep them around after it happens. I don't think they're going to be able to translate eyes as easily when all that stuff is done in 2027. I mean, maybe you have a differing opinion, and I definitely would like to hear it, but I just don't think waiting that long to make change is the right idea.
I actually do have a differing opinion, but first I want to say that airport analogy, spot on. That is such a good way to think about it. Just wanted to give you credit there because we fight more than we compliment, but you deserve a little tip of the hat there, sir.
Wow, thank you.
Um,
Historic day.
I agree with you. I don't think this sets MLS back. I use the phrase we didn't move the needle forward or backward with this decision, right? You had the small group of angry anti-MLS Twitter heads blowing up about how the league doesn't take itself seriously, so no one's going to watch and blah 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 stuff that we see on a daily basis anyway. It was just like a little bit louder, for lack of a better term. At the end of the day, you need one single hand, 5 fingers, to count the number of people who woke up, saw the news, and said, I'm not watching MLS anymore because the U22 rule is still dependent on which type of DPs you have. Right? Like nobody woke up and read those rule changes and was like, oh my God, MLS is so unserious because they're still doing X, Y, and Z that 95% of people don't even know. Like, it didn't set anything back. You have the people who are screaming on Twitter, and they're all anti MLS anyway. You didn't lose anything. Contrary to your point about trying to capitalize now before Messi leaves, the changes that were proposed or hinted at or whatever would not have, in my opinion, capitalized on. And this is what I was kind of alluding to before, where everybody's talking about the changes that wanted to be made to capitalize on Messi. The changes that were being proposed were not capitalizing on Messi. It was for what we were just talking about, making teams more competitive through deeper competition. It wasn't taking advantage of superstar and the eyes that he brought. And I think that's a really big distinction that people tend to mistake here, is every change has to be tied to Messi. And that's not the case. Any change in TAM would have gotten you a mid-level name that either one, nobody's ever heard of before, and it would have been like, oh, well, it's not insert European star here. Or two, is old, washed up, and somebody you might have pulled from a FIFA 14 pack once in your life. And you've been like, oh, yeah, I remember that name, but now MLS is a retirement league, and I'm not going to, right? Those changes that were proposed were not going to take advantage of Messi, right? They were going to make teams better, sure. But the people who are like, oh my God, Messi's eyes are here and we won't even change any of the salary rules, nothing that was proposed is going to make that change, right? Like, keep attendance here. That's the biggest thing that you're looking to do with Messi. You're not looking to do anything other than keep attendance and keep eyes. Raising TAM by $2 million doesn't get you anybody who's going to stick around because they only came to watch Messi. Like, I don't know how that conclusion came to be, but here we are. And that's where it comes to my